Here is Pat Morris,
That's a lot of
Newport
money.
Sports NHL agent for O'Reilly and Richards. Thanks for doing this, Pat.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. I guess good afternoon now, yes.
Well, you're probably locked in a boardroom right now. You have no idea what time it is.
It's a busy time.
When was the last time you saw daylight?
Not for a while. It's a busy time of year for all of us here.
Have you had a chance to speak with Brad since the end of the Stanley Cup final?
Yeah, quite often.
And he didn't talk yesterday, and then he took some heat over the Stanley Cup final, and some of it were warranted, and some of it just people are looking for an excuse and all this buyout talk. Where's his head at? How is he doing?
You know what? He's a veteran, so he's been through all of this last year when the world thought he was going to be bought out last year, and everyone is expecting it that it's automatic that it'll happen this year. So, looking at the waiver list today, his name's not on it, and really, effectively, it doesn't have to go on the waiver list, given that he's got a no-move and no-trade clause. But his head right now is, I can't control anything. I controlled my season. I had a very strong season. I would have finished first, second, or third on, I think it's about 22 teams in the league. He courted himself well in the playoffs as the semifinals ended and they went on to the finals. People were exalting him as a great captain of the Rangers and one of the reasons why they were in the final. After Game 2, he's an automatic buyout because he had, to his own accountability, a poor game in Game 2 and ended up on the fourth line. So certainly that's in the Rangers' hands as to what they're going to do. They haven't disclosed anything as of yet. I know they're meeting on various issues. They got lots of business to do this summer, and they'll make a hockey decision. I think they keep him. A business decision, they may not.
Pat, explain the recapture. You know, we know his cap hit is 6.67, whatever. The recapture is the bigger issue. And can you explain how that works and what the actual dollars would be if he retired at 37, 38, or 39?
The rule was put in place for anyone who had a contract that was front-loaded.
That you invented, didn't you?
That contract was registered, and that was pre this CBA, and unfortunately in this CBA they created a new element called a recapture. So anyone whose contract is front-loaded and lessened as it goes on, and Brad's contract for the next 3 years is substantive, and the final 3 years is at $1 million, $1 million, and $1 million. So if a player retires, they have a description called a cap recapture, where the Rangers, if Brad did decide that he wasn't going to play at that price or couldn't play, that there's a cap recapture that's close to $6 million a year for those 3 years. So there's
on the cap,
a dead space.
Yeah. So that's the killer when you really look at it, more than the cap hit is until he's 40. Or is that an issue too? I see it as a double-ended issue. The cap hit now going through.
Either way you look at it, it's
tough,
severe.
Yeah.
Another way to look at it is, could he play for the next 3 seasons? Because he's going to continue to train hard and understands that with progressing age, he's got to work that much harder with the speed of the game. And he did that for the first time with a new trainer this past summer. He's going to do the same thing this year. So he's pleased with his season. At the same time, 3 years from now, could a team buy a player out? And it's still severe. It's not buying out $1 million, $1 million, and $1 million. There's a factoring in of what his cap hit is. So there's not really any pleasant ways for the Rangers to look at it, and Brad's the recipient of what their decision is.
You talked about talking to Brad a lot. Have you had much discussion with either Glenn or Jeff Gordon?
I've spoken to Glenn, and Glenn was very, very positive about Brad's season and most of his playoffs. Obviously talked about his final not being what the previous 3 rounds were, but not every player other than Lundqvist was perfect in that round. So he, was very pleased with his season, and from a hockey point of view, isn't against moving forward with him, but it's a business decision that may be even out of Glenn's hands.
Pat Morris, the agent at Newport Sports, agent for Brad Richards. So do you have any indication of which way they're leaning?
Not as of yet, just a gut feeling that it wouldn't surprise me if he's kept. I know that's against, and maybe that's my heart speaking rather than my head, but with the commentary from Glenn Sather, he was pretty positive about Brad's role this past season, especially after Callahan left, and his leadership, and maybe moving forward. At the same time, that's the hockey side of it. From the business side of it, they've got 11 players they have to re-sign. So something's got to give somewhere, or that team's going to be a lot different. When you look at Brassard and Kreider and Zuccarello as RFAs, and you look at Boyle, Pouliot, Moore, and Carcillo as UFAs, and Falcon, Moore as RFAs, and Strawman and Diaz as UFAs. So it's 11 players they got to attend to, and it all doesn't fit under their current cap and where the cap would head to.
Pat Morris on Hockey Central with Darren Millard, John Shannon, and Doug McLean.
He doesn't sound as chipper as he usually does when he's talking to me.
Always a pleasure, Douglas.
What about Ryan O'Reilly then, Pat? Where are you with the Avalanche?
We had some warning that the ARB might be a situation that they take advantage of. It's within the CBA. Ryan understands that. He also understands that it's unique, that no player has been ARBed for a pay cut that is of his stature. In the old CBA, they would, Zach Parise, Henrik Lundqvist, Marc-Andre Fleury were ARBed by their clubs more for the purpose of preventing offer sheets at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new rule in place now under this CBA that an offer sheet is available from July 1st to July 5th. Ryan would like to stay in Colorado. At the same time, a long-term deal has not been worked out or isn't close to being worked out. So Ryan's unrestricted in 2 years, and under the model now, given that Colorado has ARBed him, that short-term looks like what the future is for Ryan going forward, possibly year to year or for the next 2 years.
So he would take a 2-year ARB ruling and then just walk after 2 years is what you're suggesting?
Not necessarily. We're not.
Or are you suggesting a new deal may be done?
We can't look ahead that far, but the player has the right, now that a club has ARBed him, the player has the right to pick a 1-year or a 2-year award.
Right.
We have to sit down with Ryan and talk to him about what we're going to do on that, or what the recommendations are, and then what his instructions are. So there's lots of work left to be done on that. We're now preparing for an arbitration case that we didn't think we'd have to attend to, and at the same time, as of the 25th of June, people can entertain talking to RFAs, and he's an RFA effectively until July 5th, in which time period then it's just an arbitration case beyond that.
Who breaks the news to Ryan that the Avalanche are going down that path? Is it a member of the organization, or do they leave it up to you?
They left that up to us. So
that's nice.
Yeah. So, what we had always talked to him about, that potential inevitability if there wasn't a long-term deal done. So he wasn't caught by surprise, but in the end, you always look at it. Some people might look a little sideways that a team has done that to a special player, but they certainly have the business right to do it. And Ryan's mature, but there's been a history a little bit on the previous contract.
Yes.
And if I was
a stubborn young man,
and knowing you like I know you, I would love to have been able to let the player, or let you hear the bad news. I would have loved to have had that be the case. And I would have left that to you too.
Bad news.
What?
You often delivered me bad news.
Pat, maybe I misunderstood, but you're suggesting that Colorado's arbitration figure is substantially less than Ryan's making?
Well, you don't submit. They had two choices. Choice A was to qualify him at $6.5 million, which was his 13-14 salary, and that would protect the rights to him. And they knew that if they did that, that we would reach at least a 1-year deal, if not continue to try and work long-term.
Mm-hmm.
Their other choice was to select salary arbitration by the club. That's what they did. And based on that, no longer do they have to give a qualifying offer at 6.5. So the purpose of doing that is they disagree with the 6.5, and under the CBA, an arbitrator can make a decision as to what his salary is, and the minimum it can be is 85% of his 6.5. So they're looking to to get a pay cut on him.
15%.
But if the arbitrator rules it at 6-5, they've really lost nothing out of this, have they? I mean, in theory, because
other than being
goodwill,
one of their best players.
other than goodwill.
Well, we have you, Pat. This is going to be the first full year of the free agency window and five days of the negotiating window. You had a brief taste of it last year. How do you think that's going to affect the market, and how does it help your job?
It allows you to talk to teams where you're not doing it on the morning of July 1st or noon on July 1st. So it allows you to scope out, first of all, is there a market for that particular client? Then is it a burgeoning market with 10 teams or 2 teams? If it's a burgeoning market and the player, you get prepared long before. So we're talking to our free agent clients now to get them prepared with who has need for your position, who is likely to come after you, and then you've got that 5-day period to talk to GMs, to talk to coaches.
And
you can't negotiate in that time period, but you certainly can maybe put things in order.
But
be more prepared.
Todd, come on. You know why it's in there. Because now you can do it legally.
What are you talking about, Douglas?
Now there's no tampering for those 5 days like it's gone on for 100 years. So that's why it's there. Come on.
I can't spell tampering. I don't know what you're speaking of.
So, but
Neither can I.
Just the fact that the 30 managers and most of you will be in Philadelphia, does that not do you see a lot of visitation actually occurring in Philadelphia?
There could be. There always is with incumbent players. So if you've got player X on your team and time is winding down, there are always meetings at the draft to sit down with a manager to try and see if at the last minute you can close off on a deal for an incumbent player.
Right.
They'll have the focus. They've got a lot of hard work in those days leading up to the draft to work with their scouts to select the next group of players. So it's everybody, one place, one setting, so it's convenient. A lot of in-person meetings, I think, are the expectation from our office.
Case in point, the whole Vinny LeCavalier thing last year, where he got his compliance buyout from Steve Yzerman, and the next day was at the Marriott Marquis in New York City in a suite saying, "Hey, I'll talk to any team," and I think he had 6 or 7 teams visit that.
So
day.
we're counting on you, Shanny, since you're going to be there as an insider to be on top of all these things and getting it back to us at the desk here in Toronto.
Damien is the NHL insider.
Between you and Damien.
No, Damien's the NHL insider.
We're
Pat
expecting
Morris,
a lot of information.
Pat Morris from
I thought
Newport
you'd
Sports.
be in PEI on the deck.
He wishes.
Exactly.
You've always been a great supporter of the show, Pat. Really appreciate your insight
And
on
listener.
Brad and the clients and what this whole landscape is going to look like heading towards July 1st. Appreciate it, Pat.
I think it'll be an exciting and volatile draft, that's for sure.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay.
Be good.
See you, gentlemen.
There's Pat Morris from Newport Sports.